Welcome back. Now, recruitment activity decreased by 44%, mainly due to economic restrictions during the national lockdowns. However, there has been an increase of candidates applying for new job opportunities recently. Joining us to give us insights on what to expect is Paul Byrne, who's the head of Data Insights at the Saongroup South Africa. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Now, COVID-19 has really dealt a blow with regards to recruitment in South Africa. How dire is the situation?
Well, Katlego, you said it's certainly during the last 2 years, obviously, recruitment and employment in general just fell off the cliff. What is happening, though, is very positive. We are seeing that there's been a really strong uptick in the numbers of vacancies that have been advertised again, and we track this data on a month-by-month basis. What it's showing us at the moment is that April 2022 on April 2021, we were up 32% in hiring activity. So that's quite a considerable change. And on top of that, if I look at where we were this time just before COVID hit, so if I compare March 2020 to March 2022, we're actually up 18% on that period too. So for me, that shows that businesses are picking up their confidence in terms of hiring activity, and they're wanting people to get back into the workforce, and we're certainly seeing that come through in our numbers.
And are there any specific industries in which we are seeing this uptake, and in specific jobs where we're seeing this improvement?
I think, yes, if I look at the obvious medical and health, we have seen some considerable growth. So if I compare, first of all, where we were at the beginning of COVID, so in other words, just before the crisis struck, during the first quarter, we saw just a 101% sort of increase in employment within that health and medical sector. That's now jumped up to 130%. So we're continuing to hire really strongly within that particular area. What we're also seeing, and I think it's worth mentioning because we know how much strain the restaurant and hospitality industry took, that their employment dropped all the way down to 46% of where it was pre-COVID, and that's now bounced back to 112%. So some really strong activity happening in that space. And even in the IT sector, I think, there's been so much talk about the acceleration of the digital age as a result of COVID and companies gearing themselves for whatever that they need to do from an e-commerce or digitization perspective. We've seen, first and foremost, a drop off of recruitment during the COVID period to about 79% of where it was pre-COVID. And now it has grown back up to 113%. And it's really quite robust in terms of the activity we're seeing in that area.
Are we also seeing, just in terms of some of the analysis that you were able to make with this, with regards to how people are staying at a job? Are we finding that people are holding on longer to jobs because there are less jobs available out there?
I think everything is changing quite rapidly, and there are a number of things that we've done. The two views we've taken on the data. On the one side, we've looked across different generations to see what natural factors are happening within the workforce. And the other side, we've just looked at sort of the uptake of recruitment, at least application activity. So I'll start with the application activity. Yes, very definitely. I think worldwide we've got this phenomenon that a lot of us have read and heard about called the Great Resignation, or the Great Recalibration. And I think people have used the last 2 years to really think about what's important in their lives, and that work-life balance, what the purpose is of their job, and how they would like to continue their professional careers. And as a result of that, what we're seeing is many people are actually starting to look for jobs, and in some cases even resigning from jobs without a clear role to go into. And I think it's quite indicative in terms of this. So first of all, this pent-up energy that we've had, where people have initially been only looking for jobs during the COVID period if they were out of work, or if they sensed some form of pending doom. In other words, their company wasn't doing particularly well as a result of COVID. Those were those people that were actually looking for jobs. But from probably August last year, we've seen a big uptick in terms of those numbers, and certainly from December last year through until March, April this year, we've seen a rampant growth in terms of the numbers of job seekers in the market looking for alternative employment.
Now, lastly, Paul, with regards to people now embracing the new normal, How are people supposed to now try and make themselves more lucrative and attractive to potential employers with regards to how now work is done? There's a lot of work from home. Should people equip themselves with certain tools in order for them to be able to then grab that job?
100%. I think there's a good old cliche that says attitude determines your altitude. And I think that's probably the most important thing, that is the umbrella around everything else that I might say. Because if you can go and show your hiring manager, your immediate manager, that you've got the right attitudes and you're getting the work done, then where you do that work from doesn't matter anymore. And I think that probably is the most important point, is it really talks to how we've started to change in terms of managing people. We need, and companies need, to be looking at sort of outcomes-based management as opposed to sort of the clock watching and making sure that people are arriving on time at work and leaving on time. I think that's changed. People need to be able to show that they are delivering what their job requires.
But are we finding that companies are being more abusive to people, especially now that you're not coming into the company? Is there not more burnout amongst people now that they're working from home?
There is. Whether or not that's actually companies putting pressure on or people putting that pressure on themselves is still a little bit open in terms of what's causing it. But you're spot on. There's a big problem with burnout at the moment and general wellness of the workplace. There's many writings about this. The issue that we've got when we work from home is that we don't leave that place of work. You literally go from your dining room back to the kitchen to prepare meals, look after children, whatever the case may be. And so often people are going then back to their desks to continue working in the evening because they've now got the infrastructure set up to do that. The problem with this, and I talk about wellness, and that is also we lack that socialization that we get from our work peers. We lack that work time management, where when we leave the office, in the past we were able to sort of switch off for the evening and go and focus on our own lives and our personal lives. That's not happening, and that is a big problem. We are seeing that people are obviously coming back into the office. More and more companies are starting to make that call back into the office to say we need to get back. We ourselves are on a hybrid type model where 60% of the time is in office. And I can tell you from personal experience, I think that it's the right thing to do, because at the end of the day, as much as flexibility is important and it's great to have that, I think we're better together in terms of the effectiveness of the work that we deliver versus the efficiency that we've got when we're at home.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for all those insights and for having this conversation with us. That's Paul Byrne, who is the head of Data Insights at Saongroup Africa, giving us his take on what COVID-19 has taken the country in terms of our corporate spaces and how we're now seeing recruitment being on the up, especially in some industries where COVID-19 had actually dealt a blow.